Hi, and welcome back to Writers Room Retcon. This is the show where, if you've never seen it before, we take a franchise, we take an existing series of films, and we look to see what would we do with no pressure from studios or budget or producers. What would we do with a series? Hopefully you've seen some of our other videos. If you haven't, go check them out. But yeah,
we're still in our nuclear bunker, if only just to reduce the amount of lens flare bouncing off my bald head when we're doing the intros.
Yeah, we've changed location. We've been in this for one video, we're in this for another one. It's cold outside, so we've moved inside into a space. So we might stay here, we might not. Watch this.
Yeah. But for the moment, Mike, what film franchise are we looking at this time?
This time we are looking from the Escape films. And I don't mean Alcatraz or Room, we are looking at Escape from New York, Escape from LA. What would we do with that? Now, bit of an interesting one, because this isn't really a franchise, but there are two films.
And you could argue that really it needs to be John Carpenter doing whatever's going on. So with that in mind, it's like, what would we do with it? I think John Carpenter, whatever he would choose to do with it would be brilliant. But
Agreed.
You know, we're playing a game.
Exactly. So not as complicated as some of our previous videos, or not as huge or as well known or beloved as some of our other ones, which might give us some scope to be a bit more creative, might not, make it harder.
Yeah, and which also goes towards making it harder is that we only give ourselves an hour. I don't remember if you've mentioned this already.
I have not, no.
Yeah, we just have an hour to come up with whatever film concept we're going to do, because otherwise it could be in it forever and it's not really...
So while we don't have the constraints of a studio budget or anything else, we do give ourselves the constraints of, when we start writing it, 1 hour to plot out what our new film would be. And we did mention it, and I think we might have missed it off one of our other videos, but I am going to say again, this is not shitting on what other people have made. To make anything is impressive, and even the worst thing made is better than anyone's idea that they never acted on. Yeah. So this is not insulting films at any point. We will give our own opinion of them, but it's always impressive to those people that have actually gone out and made something. So
yes, especially when we're doing it with a master like John Carpenter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy's amazing. So
well, let's see what we can do with this thing.
Exactly.
Roll backwards. Excuse me. Instantly.
You're looking at the...
Look at that. How cool is that?
It is very, very cool. Well, let me reiterate. This one is very, very cool.
Yeah, this one. Okay, let's talk about the timeline. Let's just get straight into this, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good.
Did we swap the pens?
That's the new pen.
Decoy pen.
So obviously, Escape from New York was the original with Kurt Russell. It was 1981.
Jesus.
And then Escape from LA.
Yep.
1996.
Holy shit.
Yeah, big old gap.
So, what do you think about these films? What do you think about Escape from New York?
So, first of all, I have to say, like, it's hard to talk about these films and not talk about the creator of them, so the writer and the director, John Carpenter, because I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. I think most film enthusiasms are. For me, he's made two of my all-time favourite horrors, which is The Thing and Halloween. But the rest of his the rest of the scope of his work is just as impressive, and these feel like very John Carpenter-esque movies that just couldn't be made anymore. Like, they just wouldn't exist. They would need to be an edge. They would need to be that's great, but maybe we put Vin Diesel in it and it then turns out to be Fast and the Furious prequel, or maybe everything has to be part of this massive. And when these came out, even for the 80s, like, looking back, it just doesn't feel like there's much like it. It just doesn't exist because of it. So Escape from New York, in my opinion, is just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. There's some cool concepts in it. It's well delivered. It has a badass, cool character. Anytime John Carpenter and Kurt Russell get together,
It's gonna be good.
magic happens.
Yeah.
Like Mentos in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's always going to give you something.
And in this instance, it just ends up giving you a mess all over your lap. But for the most part, the very first bit of it's great.
Yes. So I was very late to the party. I saw Escape from New York years and years and years after it came out, decades even, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But I only ever knew that Escape from LA existed and never watched it. And I have to say, when we were talking about films that we may or may not cover, I knew I wanted to do this series, having never watched the second one.
Okay.
So I watched the second.
You've seen it since.
I have seen. I've actually watched it twice.
Okay.
To get my head around it.
So another look at this.
Very different movie. Even though it's not, in many ways it's exactly the same as the first one, but this one just did not land. It's just, there's something, and I think for me it is the bleak tone of Escape from New York. There's almost like a horror element, that bit where he's in the streets and there's people come up from the ground and stuff like that. Like, it is terrifying, and it's like the government just feel ridiculously overpowered and under threat and everything else. Whether in Escape from LA, the president feels like an idiot, the bad guys are too obviously there's going to be a double cross. Then when you get there, the story falls apart. No one ever feels really dangerous, and then a lot of it is exact replicas of this one, but to the point where it's so similar you're instantly comparing it, because I very much doubt anyone's gone straight in with Escape from LA, not on purpose at least.
No.
And so that when you're watching this and you're watching scenes, it's like the submarine versus the hang glider, the death match in the cage versus playing basketball. Like, the scenes just, they're too similar, and this one does not add up. So if this film existed on its own without this, I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I think it's because it's the second sequel, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's Escape from LA is a really weird film, and it was a very weird time in films anyway. I mean, 1996. I'll just be echoing your point, so I completely agree with you. So look, shall we without further ado, get stuck into this thing?
Yeah, talk about the essence of the film.
So should we start the timer and get into the essence? I know we kind of gave ourselves that wide berth with Terminator because it was such a big mother, but do you want to do it?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Let's bite off more than we could chew, so I'm going to go to this camera here.
Why make it easy?
So you can see the 30-minute timer. This is going to go off to let us know when we're halfway. So there we go, and we're off. All right, Mike.
Okay, so
best of luck to you, sir.
You too.
Let's do it.
So some themes or some ethos or things that we think are appropriate to this.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Write down a couple.
I think this is. I mean, some obvious ones. I think. I don't think it's going to be very contentious. This, but I think place, as in like where it's set, is as much part of the character of the movie as the characters.
Yep, I'd agree with
So
that.
place, and by that I mean the city or wherever. It's in the name of the movie, but also it kind of like gives this weird. It's something else to it. It's a character more than anything else.
Yes, I agree. I'm going to write down. It's not an ethos. It's a person.
Yeah. Snake.
Plissken. I don't know if that's how you spell it.
We'll go with that.
Die Hard is John McClane.
Yes.
Escape From is Snake Plissken, and there is only Kurt Russell can play him. I think without it, it's kind of not really like the Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can get around it, but I feel like it'd always be lacking. This film hangs on the shoulders of Kurt Russell's character. His badassness, his carefree attitude, and being played by Kurt Russell. I think if you got rid of this, it instantly wouldn't work.
100%. It's Snake Plissken who is Kurt Russell.
Yes, it has to be.
No one else could be.
Yeah, and I'm going to put in there Kurt Russell. There's no point. There's no point. Because otherwise it's only ever just going to end up being a comparison.
It'll
or
feel
a
like a
remake.
TV movie.
Exactly. I'm going to put in
Please.
another one in here, which is Danger, like verging on kind of horror. It's not a horror film, but the Escape from New York has those scenes, as I was just saying earlier, when the people come out and everything else. Escape from LA kind of tried to do it with the plastic surgeons, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there is that, like, this
Bruce
is
Campbell.
yeah, it's not fun. This is a terrible place to be, and there is danger and horror in this location. It's not a oh, we're going to go visit this place. Oh, it's lawless. It's cool. We stay up till 10:30 some nights. You know, it's like cannibalism. It's the real decline of society, and it's this idea of the danger of what I'm going to put in here. I'm going to spell it wrong, but oppression. Like, that's what this film feels like. Like,
You're being oppressed inside as you are outside. So,
Exactly.
like, because if we just do New York for a minute, you got the Duke, who's this overlord in control of all of it, and outside of it, you've got this horrible president, and like there's the whole government outside there are dicks. Which is, I'm kind of jumping on that because my next one, if I may, press this button so you guys can see it, is that kind of like. I'm just trying to think of distrust of authority.
yeah,
Of authority.
but it's also like this idea. I'm going to butcher the wife's tale, but it's like whatever you bury come up to get you. It's
Sure.
like all of these are like you've cornered something off and left people to it, and it's only going to come back to bite you in the arse. It's like a powder keg constantly ready to go. It happened in New York. If it happened in LA. It's this idea of, you know, you created this mess and it, you know, this one guy's going to fix it, and he doesn't really fix it.
Yeah, and this is we're very mindful of time all of a sudden. We've been going for 4 minutes, so I think that like another one is going to be the thing of like it's Pliskin has got to P for Pliskin has got to get into somewhere to do something. I know it sounds like really like dumb and obvious, but it's that kind of it's.
He has to escape.
Yeah.
He has to go in to escape.
Exactly.
So, with that in mind,
Are you ready to go? Do you think?
I am ready to go, and I have an idea. This is something that we discussed. So, when we would look at a timeline, we'd work out where our film would fit in, where it would go. It's traditionally what we've done.
The retcon part of it is that, like, if a film franchise is all over the place, where can we chop in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For this, I do think that we can go straight in as a third one.
Yeah.
We've agreed that Snake Plissken has to be played by Kurt Russell,
No doubt.
and I don't think there's a need to de-age him.
No, because he's amazing.
He is amazing. He's brilliant. So straight away, I was like, okay, it's an older Snake Plissken. And I had the idea of, at the end of Escape from LA, he activates the satellites that turn off everything all over the world. And he kind of walks past with like a smile, and the guy's like, you've put everything into the Stone Age and everything else. And that's kind of how the film ends. It's like humanity starting all over again. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay, so the natural step is to go escape from where? So it's done LA, it's done New York, it's done LA, so escape from Washington, escape from New Orleans, escape from this. And I came up with the idea of escape from America.
Okay.
My concept was playing around with it, either that America's gotten so bad he needs to get out of it, or playing into and following the same story beats of the last two is the rest of the world has fixed itself after what America's done. It's taken years and years and years. But blaming America thoroughly, they stopped trade, they've stopped communicating. The world's basically excommunicated America.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, to hell with you. And they've just left them alone. And then years later, there's suggestions of intelligence that like decades later, 20 years later, America's planning like a retribution. Like they're pissed at the world. And they're like, we need to get in, but we can't send anything over. The technology hasn't moved beyond. Everything's stopped working, and they can build new things, but those things didn't work, economies and everything else. So they don't have the same technical capabilities as they used to. So things like satellites, all that kind of stuff doesn't exist. So they've sent some people in, they haven't got it. And they're like, the reality is we send one of our people in and they're spotted immediately. What we need to do is go into the heart of America and drop someone off that not only can blend in but can kick ass. And they're like, guess who we found hiding out in Scotland or wherever? And it's Snake Plissken. And he's retired and he's old and he's everything else. And they turn around to him and they're like, we want you to go into America and find out if there's any truth to this weapon. And if it is, shut it down and come back. The difference I had is in New York and LA, he's forced into it. There's a bomb in his head, he's been injected, there's a time limit or anything else. I thought on this one, rather than force him into it, is to say to him, like, we have this intelligence that this is all going to come to end in 2 days' time. So the timer isn't got anything to do with his life's going to end. It's like everyone's life's going to end. This piece that you've lived in is going to end. You have 48 hours and that's it. Because I like the idea of still setting America up as the villain. Not the Europeans are then like, well, if you don't do this, we're going to detonate something that blows off your arms and legs or whatever it is. It's like, actually, like, if you don't do this, it ends. And for once, Snake is actually like, I want to hold on to this piece, I'm with you, I'll do it. And so, unlike the first two, my thing was then, where would he land in America? And I had this idea, and again, it's nothing formed, but I like the idea of, the Duke was really cool for New York, this was really cool for LA. What if it's going from one coast to the other coast, so he's got a week, maybe not 2 days, and you hit like different states run by different warlords. And it's Snake getting across America or from one state to another, not a city, not a closed off prison, it's the whole of America. What would that actually look like? And then I thought, kind of political, is not only do you have these states, warlords, you have a new civil war of North versus South again. And so Kurt Russell is in the middle of a civil war, going through states owned by different war chiefs of different allegiances, trying to find where this secret weapon is that they're going to unleash. Like, if the North wins, they're going to unleash it. If the South wins, they're going to unleash it. It's about control of it. What happens in there, what goes wrong, and ultimately the betrayal and double cross and Snake getting the one up still has to be there. And what that could be, I don't know. But I like the idea of Escape from America.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, like, I really like it. There's some things which I think that I love it. I think because I was like thinking of other places for him to go see, and kind of like New York and LA is America, really. I know obviously there's another 48 states which are all important in their own right, but in terms of like those two iconic film locations, they don't get any grander than that.
You perhaps Washington DC.
Yeah, because it's like, but once like really.
Escape from San Francisco, like it just. You've picked the two biggest locations, and that's where.
And so I was like, maybe escape into New York as a sort of thing, but like.
Okay, nice.
But you've got kind of like, I prefer this thing, and like some stuff which if I may. So like, what about if I really loved the notion of America being kind of like ostracized and kind of like excluded, and rather than it being like this individual weapon thing, what if it's a case of that, like we're in, as you say, like over here in Europe, and Pliskin's hiding out here or something like that. And what the Europeans think is that it's going to be a full-on invasion from America. So like it's, but then when they actually get over there, that's when they see that like maybe that's what the double cross happens sooner than later because of the distances involved. What I'm trying to get at is I really like. So and I was thinking about getting skin in the game I love the idea of Pliskin wanting to do it this time. Maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, maybe this isn't right, but like if Snake's got a kid, or if he's got like a surrogate family of some sort which he's invested in, he's sort of settled down, he's still, and he's like, I like the idea of him being isolated off somewhere else, because his across all of these movies, he's being like, well, fuck everybody. And so like, you know, if you don't do this, we're all going to die. And he's like, one of my favourite lines is the president's being kidnapped, and president of where? You know, it's just like, it's brilliant, and that sort of, he doesn't care. And something which I kind of liked in between these two movies is that Escape from New York, they're like, without this tape, everything is going to go terribly and a nuclear war is going to happen. Nothing changed. Actually, it carried on. And then, these satellites are now going to make all this happen. Nothing changed. Because Snake, I was going to call him Plake Sniskin, knows nothing changes. That's part of his wisdom. And so, like, I think we need to kind of give him some real skin in the game to kind of get him off the bench. As I say, whether that's he's settled down with a family, I can't imagine that, or it's like some people which he's into or something is going to kind of galvanise him to kind of get him in it. And that's his own personal journey then, is maybe him realising that.
I mean, the other so two other things, like, so I hear what you're saying, like,
so let's do some back and forth.
Yeah,
let's go.
It could be like family, and that he's gone to go, because the idea being, I suppose, what this is lacking is it's very vague. We're going to send one person to the heart of America. Yeah. Like, it's like, America's massive. Like, what have you got, like 6 years? Like, how long is it going to take one man on foot to locate it? So maybe it would make more sense of like, he's going, he's got to locate something. He's like, this is where we think they are. Or playing around with it, just an idea, because I'm also thinking about the double cross, because there still needs to be that double cross. Is what if America has been launching small invasions, not big, just small ones, and they've been battling them off, and so and all this, and in doing so they've lost the platoon, and Snake gets informed, his son, because the reason why I think son is because Wyatt Russell is an actor, his actual son. And it kind of feels like you're right.
Oh my God, yes.
He needs to have skin in the game, and what better would it be, Kurt and Wyatt Russell playing father and son? And then what you could have as well is, because Wyatt, do you know the actor? In 22 Jump Street.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's a bit more wide-eyed, idealistic, and through this journey he becomes as thingy as Snake does. So when they do meet up, because let's face it, he's not going to be dead. When Snake goes looking for him, he meets up. He's still this idealistic, this is right to do, like, and everything else. And by the end of the film, he becomes as jaded, realises his dad was right all along.
I wonder if we could put like some kind of.
I've got a concept. So America's been sending over these things. It's basically like America's doing this. They're not what they used to be anymore, so they're more a nuisance. Yeah. Occasionally they get a town or something like that, and they've gone off. His son's gone off to fight, like, America, basically, like, to hold him at bay. So they basically patrol the Atlantic or whatever, and his ship gets taken. Kurt goes out there. The betrayal and everything else, what if it's a case of America hasn't been attacking, Europe's like, America's a vast country with no leadership, and what Europe's actually been doing is trying to evade America. And when Wyatt gets there, he realises that he's not protecting his new homeland from Europe. Actually, Europe's been trying to invade America this entire time, and they're just fending off the attack. And that all of these friends of his that keep going over there to defend Europe have actually been unwittingly part of an invasion. They just don't know it, because they can't outright invade America. But if they stir the pot enough, they can go in and then take over.
So if we we're kind of like lining up here. If we do some US history kind of stuff, so like that, you got. What are you after there, Michael?
I was just after a swig of one plate.
You're not allowed it.
Everything over here, yes.
That, like, obviously Washington DC is important, and the Europeans once upon a time burning down the White House and that sort of stuff. I wonder if. Yeah, some sort of, and like similarly with the United States thing, there was a point when New York was like, forgive me, I'm not a historian, I'm a bald man who lives in England, so what do I know? But that when the 50 states were, well, they weren't 50 states, when the states were beginning to kind of like unite, that there was a period of time when New York was potentially going to get invaded against by the other rivaling states, because New York, being the main harbour bit between it and Europe was like kind of putting its taxes up and all that sort of stuff for things coming through. So I don't think so. Like,
so what if like on the ground of it, Snake is going in to rescue his son because he's pissed that they've involved him and everything else, and these guys are like, we messed up, you have every right. Whilst you're out there, you can prevent people like your son by being killed by gathering this information. Like, we believe that they're held up in DC, which is where they've taken your son. Any information you can give us to know what kind of threat we're after. So they're sending him in for recon. He's going there to get his son. Washington's too hot because it's the one place in America where everything's happening, so it's where they're monitoring it. So they drop him off at New York. So we get to go back to New York. And he makes his way down to Washington DC, seeing that like the place is bad.
Because on between there and there, you've got.
I mean, you've got New Jersey, you've got Virginia.
Let's break a map out. Once again, forgive us, our American cousins. This is.
They're not too far. You've got New Jersey and Philadelphia. Yeah, they're not that far away from each other.
They're not.
I mean, they are by our standards, but by American standards, they're not.
Oh look, fuck this. What are we doing? Let's not worry about this for the moment. Let's just stick with it. Because the other thing is that like another important aspect to the escape films is just it's like don't worry too much about it. You know, like Escape from New York, they walled off New York. Is that a really good idea? It's like no. So don't worry too much about it. That's just the way it is.
But then where does the time limit come in? Because that's it. He's always up against the clock.
What if I like because of the distances involved? What if he gets coaxed into doing this assault, his kind of solo mission in, and his son isn't there, and he's like, you know, gets into New York and is like, we need you to get some recon on like Washington, and his son's going to be in the first lot arriving, so he has to kind of like clear something for like deactivate some weapon, but then we haven't got along with his son, because that would be the fun thing to see, wouldn't it? Be the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. And also, why would he have gone if he knew his son was?
Yeah, but that's what I say. That's where the double cross is. They wait until they ditch him in, and then they go, actually, your son hasn't left yet.
Okay, so just throwing some spitballing ideas.
Yeah, this is what we're going to do.
Is they go to Snake. Your son's been taken, and he's just like, well, it saves him. What's he been arrested for this time? He's like, no, he's been taken by the Americans. He goes mental. What was he doing out in America? And it's just like. He was part of a wave. It's like America are fighting back. They promised to televise his execution in 2 days and all of this. So Snake's like, right, fuck this, fuck that kind of thing. And they're just like, look, we don't have much technology, but what we have is like a camera and all this kind of stuff that scans where you are. It's like, get in, get your son, like, and get out. And they're just like, we don't want you to do that. That's what he's saying. He's like, that's what I am going to do. And Snake goes off and they're like, well, if you are, do this because we can get the information. So it feels like it's Snake's idea. He can't get close to DC, so they drop him in New York. He makes his way down here, right? When he gets there, his son isn't going to be executed. He's absolutely fine. He's being treated really nicely. And it turns out that he isn't going to do that. So he's like, why the hell? He's like, you're supposed to be televised live. And it's like, no, what they've actually done is they've waited for Snake to clear a path, and now Europe are going to invade, and they're going to use the fact that Snake has cleared like a way to get in. And what Snake realizes is that the Europeans have set him up by basically like, not only have they treated him nice, but America was never planning to invade. They're the invaders. They've taken care of him and everything else. There's still some bad bits, but Washington is like the new heart of democracy. It's trying to get all these warlords back in. You could get like the warlord for LA, they're all meeting, and actually these warlords aren't trying to wage war. They're trying to like, what can we do to stop Europe from invading us? They didn't know where this meeting was taking place, maybe instead, and they're trying to track Russell Crowe so they can send in an army to just take it out and invade. It just feels like I'd like it for him to get there, and it's like they've not been the bad guys. Actually, Europe's the bad guys. The European Commission or the President of Europe. It can be like, you know, like you had the lifetime president. There's no one country anymore, and the President of Europe wants America To do that, he has to take out, and there's a new leader in Washington that's bringing all of the heads of all the different warlords, all the different states together to unify America, and Europe sees it as a threat. They've been trying to invade. His son gets caught up. When Russell Crowe gets out there, he realises all he's done is led them right to this meeting where they're all going to be taken out.
I love the. How about, I love it. So how about like the meetings in Washington? We're agreed on that, right? So the meeting's great in DC, or DE as right now, and meetings in DC, and Pliskin has got to, as you say, arrive in New York, make his way down, and he's got to like laser designate the meeting or something like that. He's got to do something to kind of mean that guided missile strikes and stuff like that, because of like the satellites all got killed with this, means that you can't just throw it. It needs to be, laser done. So they send Pliskin in to go do all this sort of stuff, to bomb to line this up, because at like a certain time a plane is going to fly over and drop a missile on wherever he's doing the guided missile. Go on, shout it.
So he's being told to do it. When he gets there, he's like, I'm not lighting up anything. And they're on, let's say, ships ready to invade, and they're like these types of bombs they send or whatever like that. And they're just like, it's like, you are the laser. We knew you'd be the only person to get in. It's like we're bombing you. And then they send him off. This is the end. He's left his jacket on the ship on purpose. So then the rockets just come back and take out the Armada. So their whole thing is they've told him he has to laser designate the target. But actually, he's the laser. They're tracking him. Once he gets there, they can just send it to one location. But he, knowing that they would have double-crossed him, he doesn't trust government, has purposely left it. And you can have that bit of like, I don't know, like the cheesy bit it always is, the guy next to the president that looks down and sees like the thing flashing in his back pocket, and as the missiles go off, or whatever, they then turn back round.
Yeah, we could definitely tie that up.
And then you could be in Washington watching these ships sink, and he can just be like, Happy 4th of July, or something like that, the birth of America with his son.
So look, the thing which I think we need to just tie up, I love it, the thing should be, because then what we could do is we just write out we figure out some character arc stuff, and we put some kind of like nice set pieces in this, and then we got it.
Yeah.
But like, the thing which I'm not quite clear, and I think we could neaten up, is I love the fact that the US is going to be doing a televised execution of his son, and his son was like one of the people who, like maybe a team which had been caught or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe we can kind of like have this as a bit of a commentary about like deep faking and things like that. That somehow or another, like, he wasn't there at all, because they do kind of have that sort of weirdness, especially more in Escape from LA. I seem to remember.
Yeah, they've got the holograms. I think his son should be there. I think the difference is that they've captured him. They were never going to execute him, and so they've faked the execution on their side. This side, kind of a bit like what Russia's doing. Like their media is like, America's doing this, America's doing that. It's all bad. Like they're leading Europe to believe that, and actually what they're trying to do is unite and form a democracy. But in doing so, Europe are like, we've got an opportunity to stop America from becoming the all-powerful country again. And so they're constantly playing this propaganda about how, like, so we can start off with like America, now this wasteland, and it's all this thing like, how bad America's gotten. And it is bad in parts, but the idea is, it's a bit like the Warriors, like when that group all get together, like they were meeting together.
So actually what's going on here is beautiful. Like, and we get to see all the different warheads and stuff.
But when Snake gets in, he finds his son's been treating really well. He's like, they're never going to execute me, Dad. He's like, they're not like that here. Like, they're trying really hard. And then Snake starts to see for himself. He then gets hold of them, and he's just like, he doesn't have the radio or whatever.
But that's the thing which would, like, it's good, but as I say, it doesn't line up exactly, because why, like, it's too much to risk Snake. Because if his son's still alive over there, then they've got to assume that, like, and if they know that there's nothing bad going on. Do you see what I mean? Like, it would, naturally what's going to happen is Snake is going to find his son, and his son's going to be like, it's been great.
It doesn't matter, because once he finds them, they know where they are, because they're keeping the prisoners. like they're going to televise what America's been doing.
Yeah, but
they never planned on executing him. But they don't need Snake to. They need Snake to get into the building to save him.
But once again, it's like the timing. It's just like so. Do you see what I mean? Because the bomb strike and all that sort of stuff. So we're nearly there. I think that, and I love because the TV execution thing is very Escape from New York and Escape from LA. There's that kind of sick kind of. This is not how you treat people.
Yeah.
Stuff is very
broadcast it live, show to the world.
And that's a good thing to get Snake off the bench and over here.
Also gives him a time limit, so he can constantly be checking the time. Because obviously in this one he's got a bomb that's going to go off on that one, and this he's checking it because he's like at this time when they go
like
live.
Maybe the designator is on his watch and he swapped his watch out to the old. Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Rather than it being in his jacket or something, because he always basically throughout the films he gets more straight of undress, so needs to be something on him. But like, do you see what I'm getting at with the son thing? It's just like if maybe his son's in like a. Maybe the no. So I was just going to say, if I say it, because hopefully you find something better from the incomplete thought, is that like if his son was always over here, and he's always been in America, and like they go to Pliskin being like, look, your kid's going to be executed, and actually works out both ways. You want to get your kid, we want you to laser designate the bastards who are going to do this. Yeah, and they're executing him because they're trying him as a traitor. They're like saying he's a spy of Europe or whatever like that. But actually, in actual fact, he's not a traitor. I feel like there needs to be that he gets there and like it turns out America is not. Completely, yeah. America's good guys and Europe's bad guys, 100%. And it should be England as well because of the history.
Yeah.
It's the history is important.
Or America's announced that they are going to execute the prisoners they just got off this last raid and everything else, and they're going to execute them at this time. And they go to Snake. Your son was in that wave. He went in. Having been grown up in America, he was a perfect candidate. They're going to execute him at this time. So he gets to New York to get there, and on the way, he comes across his son because he's the son of Snake Plissken. He's escaped, and he's like, "It's my friends." He's like, "I don't give a shit about your friends. Like, you're coming back with me." And he's just like, "No, Dad. Like, I'm stopping these people from doing it." So he agrees to help him, and when they get there, they realise they were never going to be executed. He then has that moment of realisation of, this isn't the America I was led to believe. Kurt Russell has seen that these people are treating them well. Like, obviously he's still coming across gangs that can't be helped. And then when they get there, they're like, light up the target, we can take him out. And he's just like, they're trying to make something new here. And they're like, look, let me rephrase, we don't care. Half hour time. We don't care. It was never about that. It was about finding a target. And he's like, well, I'm not doing it at the end or whatever. Their speech starts to happen. They all gather together. Kurt Russell's nearby. And they're like, we don't need you to designate it. We can just send a bigger armada. We know where you are. That's close enough. They send it. And then it turns out, as you say, his wristwatch, which had the countdown for the live TV execution, was not the TV execution going live. It was them live presenting, we're back, we're America again. They've misjudged it as they're going to execute people, and actually what they're trying to do is prevent them from being like, we've come together, we're America.
We're nearly there, because I loved the kiss at the end which he put in of like, we didn't need you to laser designate, we're just going to bomb that area, and actually it's on that. The timings of that, it doesn't make sense because like,
or it can just be because they're never that smart in the escape films. So what if it's just like, it would have been better, it's like then send, he's like, look, he's close enough, we know they're in the area, let's just send more firepower. He's like, you sure? He's like, we've got his location, we know whereabouts, like we don't have to be surgical anymore, let's just hit him with a sledgehammer. So they then use the fact that they still wanted him to laser it, the fact that he's there, and then when they send it on his location disappears, and then reappears on the ship or something like that, and it's like he's cloned his thing.
Well, yeah, that's nice. Because like he could just be buddying up with them, because he's in with them now, and so they're like, that's perfect. Because we're just going to bomb where you are, and that's when and so there's a watch swap or something like that. Because if he got his big weird watch from Escape from New York,
and it's like that's what they're tracking, and they've been following them the whole time, and they're like, it looks like it's going to be Washington. It's like, yeah, but where in Washington? Like, we only have enough to take out a couple of buildings. We need to be.
So if we start to, there's a thing which I'd like to kind of, we got a bit of time. So if we start sorting out the act structure thing, and then go with like the beginning 0.1, what that would be, because Escape from New York has a deleted scene at the beginning.
I've not seen that.
So because the beginning of Escape from New York was Snake doing the robbery with his mate. And it's like in this weird underground tube station thing.
Because the escape films always start with that cheesy voiceover, but that kind of like telling you where.
It is a year.
So I figured you could be like, since the thing went dark, Europe banded together and elected one president.
I think you need that for sure.
So you have we call it the info dump.
Yep.
We can still do the 0.1 act because that's what we've always done. But weirdly, with these films, I know there was a deleted scene.
I don't know, but actually, maybe you're right. Maybe just the info dump is the weird 0.1 because that's the promise.
Yeah, and it's like this is and it basically informs that after this, America was segregated by the rest of the world. Europe band together to become one country with one president, but the threat of America still looms. This lawless country will threaten our freedom.
Because doesn't Escape from New York start with like the people trying to leave? And on the boat, and it gets blown up.
Yeah, yes, it does.
So we should have something to do with this conflict.
You've got a naval blockade that are preventing refugees from coming across, and they're just blowing up a ship as it comes in.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's like to prevent the American. What do they call them? Because obviously they're not asylum seekers. They're like whatever, like the negative term, whatever they call that. They're basically like to prevent America's influence from spreading. We're keeping them to America, and then you've got the American boat like trying to get through.
Maybe it's like a couple of once again if we do like silly John Carpenter that don't mean silly. Maybe we do a John Carpenter thing and have it so it's like oil rigs, like out, and they've got like big fucking miniguns on them or something. Do you know, like kind of big, crazy, preposterous, like these big oil rigs or something.
Yeah, it's not out in the middle of the sea, and then so there's oil rigs all around the coast of America, and they're like, it's too hot to land here. The closest we can get you is New York. So
I don't know. Maybe we push these way back. Seriously, because my thought is that like that makes it so that the drop in is more dangerous, and then also they wouldn't be able. Because if you could just kind of see.
No, not like on the coast, like a blockade. I mean, a few miles away.
Okay.
Because if they were all the way back here, then they would have the capability to just.
Got it. Yeah.
It's
but like over the horizon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like around here, and it's like, look, the oil rig's near Washington D.C. because it's landlocked Washington D.C., isn't it? It's not actually near a port.
It's on a big stinky marshy river, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like we can't get in that way, but we can drop you off site 1 or like site 7Z or whatever like that. And he's like, where's that near? He's like, New York. And he's like, been a while or whatever like that, yeah? So they drop him off here, when actually what they've done is the whole time we see them in the conference setting up, we assume they're in here, and then it's revealed that they're actually all stationed on these ones, ready to bomb with whatever they have.
So look, I've got to go get the roll to do some wiping. So I think we're about there, right?
Yeah,
just about?
I think so.
Okay, so
how long have we got? 24 minutes.
24 minutes to, I should do it. Let's get rid of all of this shit. Do you need yours gone? You have it?
Yeah. Go.
Let's get some space here.
And I'm going to put, if you're happy with it then, as a title.
Yep.
Escape from America.
I love it. Why would I not be? Come on. Perfect.
So whilst you're writing it out,
yeah.
Once again, if you're new to the videos, we always follow the 3-act structure, which is the traditional structure of stories, where it's the setting up the world, conflict and resolution essentially. And in films we have what's called the 0.1 act. It's the promise of the start. It sets up the action, it shows a death in a horror film, it's whatever it needs to be. So we've got our acts 0.1 and we've got our act 1, 2 and 3.
Let's do it like this so you can see. And I'll tell you what, just to help with the geography of the thing, if I do this down here, you guys will probably be able to see if we have like very roughly, or forgive the crudity of the model, Marty, I hadn't had time to do it to scale or paint it. If we say like this is USA and this is Europe, and then just to kind of help us with the geography of how like he's going to go in and all that sort of stuff. So if we have New York and then DC down there, just to kind of like, you know, where shit is. And so we're sort of saying that we had the oil rigs
that are set up all around, yeah.
And they basically just machine gun boats and stuff.
Exactly. Because they still haven't got air travel or whatever. Like that's something they haven't been able to get back. So Acts 0.1 we're just going to refer to as the info dump.
Yep.
And this is essentially...
So I tell you what, yeah, if you do your Basil exposition, hello Basil.
Yeah.
If you do that, like, so it's like the
credits and everything else. I'm not going to write it as
no, of course not. Like, but the gist of it's that America's
Europe banded together, one president, USA into lawlessness, Europe cordoned off USA to stop them from spreading.
Because this is to stop people coming,
leave them
out of the States, right?
Yeah. Leave them to it, and then Europe anticipates
war.
A war.
Great. And so Act 1 we find Snake.
Yep.
Where would be a cool place for Snake to be?
See, this is a question. Would he be, or would they still bring him in? Because it always starts with him getting offloaded onto a van and everything else. So I think it can start with him getting...
Is he in jail? They could never catch Pliskin.
No, they would never. I mean, they always do, but it feels like they need to talk about it. So the Act 1 starts with the President of Europe and the General of the European Army discussing with his other guy, is this the right guy to bring in? It's like, great. It's like, it took us 2 teams to get him and bring him in. He's still the most lethal soldier alive. You know, that typical John Carpenter. And then he gets off.
I've got an idea, actually. Forgive me. What if it starts off with a different Snake Plissken, like of somebody else who's trying to do the same assault and basically gets taken out? Do you see it? Act 0.1 is like them. So rather than like the blockade showing like so in Act 0.1 the people leaving and getting minigunned, it shows somebody under cover of darkness trying to land on like Coney Island or something.
Yeah.
And then
just getting taken out very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like, we told you, the only thing that can fight America
and we have like
is an American.
Was it Lee Van Cleef, the guy who was the dude in... Oh, it's here, sorry. I don't know if it... Do you know the guy I'm talking about? Maybe it's not on the back here.
I don't.
It is. He's the... I'm sure he's called Lee Van Cleef. He's the cool, like, the main bad guy bloke who sort of convinces Snake. Yes, he's the real mean kind of like... He's the guy who's in like those spaghetti westerns and stuff.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
I doubt he's alive, but God, I wish he was, because it's that person who would be like, you know, who we need to send in is Snake.
But he's an American and this is Europe.
Ah, you're so right.
But what would be cool if he was one of the warlords of America and they all got together.
That would be fucking cool. Okay, but do you see what, so like, if this is like the failed...
failed attempt to get in, we need Snake.
Attempt. And as I say, maybe he gets to... Maybe like wasn't like another place, another coastal bit, which he could arrive. Maybe somewhere south. So it's like I won't scare my geography shit, but maybe he'd arrive in like.
I mean, you could be you could do Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So that's Philadelphia, and it's on the coast. Atlantic City in New Jersey. Sorry, it's in New Jersey. Atlantic City's in New Jersey.
So I tell you what, I put New Jersey.
Yeah.
New Jonesy. Failed attempt in New Jonesy, and he like gets totally taken out and all that sort of stuff. So it sets up looking like he's going to be the one, and he's got like a cool conveyance in, like the snake.
Because just like with our previous one, where we reveal the real, we make it look like Escape From is a different actor that's just as tough and everything else. It's not, and it's like there's no one else but Snake Plissken. Boom, Russell Crowe's brought back in.
And like, how do you think they find him? Do you think, like, is he in?
I think they talk about him, and he shows up in a prisoner transport. I don't think it needs to be like.
Yeah, it could be like So they could start off having that conversation, like in the kind of they see that this one's gone wrong, and it's like that's the best man we had, and someone could just be sitting back being like, we all know there's only one person, and that's when it cuts to seeing Pliskin in the back of a prisoner van.
Yeah,
and it's him.
Yeah, and it's just like it's like. Yeah, but he's in a whatever. It's like
he's 500 years old,
yeah,
and he's
but great. But he's out there. He's like, actually, no, Mr. President, he's been here the whole time, and we just picked him up. It's like, what? You got Snake Plissken? It's like, yeah. It turns out he's been living here. Got spotted. Took an army of people to bring him down.
Yeah.
He's got 2 Purple Hearts. 2 this.
He's got to be. He's got to be in his 60s. It's like, do you honestly think time is something which Pliskin worries about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So building him up.
Yeah.
So Act 1, Snake is brought in and given the lowdown about the fact of like, we want you to laser target this. He sort of says, why the hell would I ever help you? And it's like, because they have your son. And he's like, what? And it's like, yeah, he was being born of America. He was and emigrating over here with his mum or whatever like that. He was the perfect candidate. They've taken him and they plan on broadcasting his execution live at this time. It's like, you've got this amount of time to get in. So then Act 1...
so bear with me.
Yeah. So the exposition dump.
Hello, exposition. Austrian.
Yeah. And
So
it's Snake that says to him, like, drop me in New York.
So, but just briefly then, so that the plan is to send Snake
Yep.
to rescue his son.
And on the way, laser guide where the meeting is going to take place before the execution.
To laser target meeting.
Yeah, and it's this point where they talk about the oil rigs and they say, like, we've been able to hold them off bay because they're not working together. But if America teamed up, they'd be able to beat us. They'd be here in a couple of weeks.
And so Pliskin could be like, why? When I got my son, I'm not going to do anything for you. And it's just like, you telling me you don't want to stick it to these bastards for doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a revengey type character.
No, but it's just like, all you need to do is reach this location, rescue your son, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, I tell you what, like, yeah, if you want to pick up, if you want to be able to successfully get past this, you'll laser pointer it for us.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the oil rigs will get you by the time you're out.
Yeah.
And you've got your son, so you can be carrying some dead weight.
Yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
a live weight, depending on when you
get
there.
He's like, that's great, but then you're still stuck in America, and if you want to bring your son to safety...
So can I just write over here?
Yeah.
Have to laser point...
Yeah, the meeting.
For evac.
Yep. And then it's Snake that says, don't drop me in Atlantic City, drop me in New York.
Snake
and
says
they can give him like a special, whatever it is, that special ship. He had the glider in the first one, second one he had the submarine. Maybe this one he's got like a very fast boat, because they get to the oil rig, they put him in a fast boat, and then the boat turns out to be on wheels, and he just drives straight in and crashes it, whatever, because he always takes out his vehicle.
Yeah, well, like it's like, a lovely New York thing, because we've seen the obviously it's the World Trade Center where they land in Escape from New York, and that would still be there in this timeline.
Yeah.
But like, what's another New York thing they could land on? Maybe on like the deck.
Statue of Liberty.
But that's still an awkward island to land. What about on the deck of the Intrepid? You know, the aircraft carrier they got parked up.
Yeah. That could work. Or you could, I mean, it could be the Empire State, Rockefeller Center.
The bridge we know is mined. We've seen that from.
Yeah. Or you just lands in Central Park.
Coney Island.
The whole point is I think it's important that they don't have planes.
Yeah.
Because then they could bomb and there wouldn't be a need for it. It's about all they can do is shoot.
So yeah, it's got to be some sort of
So
like
it's a
low
boat. Yes.
hovercraft.
Yeah, hovercraft, and he lands like, you know, we see him go past where the statue used to be. Obviously, famously, as the head says, the head isn't like. But yeah, he arrives in New York.
Whatever, some cool conveyance. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, so we've got 12 minutes. So Act 2 gets to New York.
Yep.
Takes out a gang, as per, makes his way down.
Some cool way of getting out of New York, obviously, because he's got to escape that shit again. So he spend a bit of time in there. Because let's just, if we put out the big meat and potatoes of this, because we know at the end we got the laser pointer, but actually he's left as like the marker on. Yeah.
So it ends with them, like, they were never going to execute. They were just doing prisoners to reveal what Europe's been doing, band America together. Snake's like, I want no part of this. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter, we'll still bomb where you are. And then it turns out that when they do, they shoot the guns, all the ships, all the oil rigs basically turn on each other and shoot each other.
Nearly there. So this is all good. Just so we're clear then, so he has to make his way down to DC.
Yeah.
And along the way he kind of like is having like lots of Snake Plissken adventures, right?
Yeah.
And in DC, this meeting, which he's going to be,
I think he finds his son at the end of Act 2.
Yep.
Because then he brings his son in, and he comes across like a group, and he comes across another fighter, realizes it's his son, and he's just like, I've got you, we're going back. And he's like, I'm not leaving without my men. He's like, they can go sod themselves and everything else. And he's like, Dad, we have a chance to stop this war and save my men. And he's like, God damn it, and goes with him. That's the end of Act 2. Act 3, they get in there and they realise that they never planned to execute anyone. His friends are absolutely fine. And he doesn't understand because he's wide-eyed, bushy, like, I did this for our new president. And he's like, no, they're all scumbags. The warlords all get together. You can have a cool bit where he fights a couple.
Sorry, you missed me there. So his son was always over in America.
Maybe it was always, or wherever he was. I imagine it's like, I get the impression that his son was sent there on a wave and they'd kidnapped his son, and in the end of Act 2, on the way to save his son, typical son of Snake Plissken, he's rescued himself and he bumps into him, and it's his son that convinces him to carry on going to Washington to save his friends.
Son has saved himself.
Yep.
And seen what's going on.
Yeah, but then why would the son, like, they need to still head to Washington
To rescue his mates.
Yeah. So he hasn't seen what's going on.
Okay.
He's gotten away, like, they got picked up in New Jersey and then he knows they're on their way to DC. He's freed himself along the way and he's making his way down to go save his friends. Snake meets up with him and is just like, we're leaving. He's like, no, Dad, like, I'm saving my friends. There's a big fight, and he's like, right, well, I'm coming with you, and all this kind of stuff. These guys keep stressing, because they don't now know he has his son, keep stressing the importance of stopping this meeting, all the lives that will be saved. Like, your son won't have a home to go back to if this meeting takes place. Laying it on thick, threatening him, doing whatever. Snake, end of Act 2, enter Washington, discover that nothing else is going on. The whole time as well, perhaps you could have that, like, there's a warlord that's still after, I don't know, there needs to be a villain.
Yes, because in obviously in Escape from New York, the villain's the Duke, but is also the man. Now, really, it's about the Duke for the most part, and that's the thing. Is that yeah, you're right. Maybe there's a bag. Maybe what happens, right, is that we've got all of the warlords are going to be meeting up in this place, but actually they're all cool except for one's a dick.
Yeah.
And that one who's a dick could be in cahoots with Europe.
Yeah.
And so like what's happening is that like they're the dick ones are the ones which got Snake's son. This is beginning to feel tenuous actually. Like
I think it's right. I think you just have it as a gang leader that's just like, or it's like, or maybe it's not even the warlord. Maybe it's like the lieutenant of the warlord. You know, like the mad dog. That he's just like, while the boss is gone away, he's like, look, this is all going to end soon, so let's just have a lot of fun before he gets back. And he goes after Snake when he arrives in New York or whatever like that.
But you know, we could do like a Warriors thing.
Yeah.
Where like actually the Warriors, what was going to happen is that they're all going to club together, but that one gang killed.
Or it's as straightforward as it's a wannabe warlord who sees himself as a warlord, and he's just like...
He's been snubbed from the table or something?
Yeah, and he's just like, you know, they're all meeting without me, I'm going to show them, you know, what they're missing kind of thing. And it's like, he basically looking at it as a chance that like he can take them all out.
It's feeling kind of like...
You've got a main villain that appears in Act 2, runs all the way from Act 3, and he's the guy that Snake kills in Act 3. And...
Who is
a renegade warlord that doesn't want to meet, and
and like the rest of the states are all good and want to meet to kind of like make a second constitution, or whatever number it would be on. Is it 2 constitutions? Once again, forgive me, our American cousins. I'm not pretending to know anything about what's going on.
Yes, and so he's going down there to basically like fuck shit up. Comes across Snake. They have a fight and everything else, and before he can get there to take them out and become the warlord of America, Snake kills him. Which is why these warlords don't turn on him, because Snake ends up helping him, and he's just there, just like, and he's just like, you were still going to execute people live on TV, and he's there like, no, we won't. We were going to show that the Americans have been invading, and that's when it all falls apart. Wyatt. I call him Wyatt, it's his actual name, but Wyatt realises it was all wrong. They're then saying, guide the lasers and everything else, guide the lasers, like, are you at the target? And he's like, I'm not guiding shit. And it's like, well, we don't need to worry about that, because we just need to hit where you're near. And then they send off all the stuff. All the warlords panic, so does his son, and Snake's just like...
Sparks a fag up.
Yeah, you never trust the president. And then the guns that they fired that can only go in one direction because they haven't got guidance.
I mean, it's what's it called?
Mortars or whatever like that. They all the mortars from all the other oil rigs and they just see it coming down. It blows up the one with the president on. He's like, happy 4th of July.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So just if we could just tighten up who this is and how this works.
Yes.
Do you see what I mean? We've got time. It's 5 minutes. So
yeah. So gang fights coming across the warlord here.
So bad warlord, for want for a better expression.
Yeah, not a good warlord. Bad warlord escapes him. He's on the run. Runs into his son around here just before the end of Act 2. Son convinces him to head to America. There's also the femme fatale, the female character that always dies. So maybe she can be like, I don't know, it's a woman he rescues from a gang fight here that the warlord kills in the middle of Act 3. Because he always has a love interest that dies, doesn't he? Well, I say always, in the last 2 films.
Yep, and then like, there's like this, you got this pursuit going on of them trying to get, because it's so like, finds escaped son, like outside of DC, inside DC,
like maybe like Atlantic City. Like they landed in Atlantic City. He's managed to break free, like just break free, and he's heading to Washington. So
to rescue it. So finds escaped son, who is heading, sorry guys, to DC
Yeah.
to find his team,
Yeah.
to rescue
His team. Yeah.
team. Convinces his dad to come with.
Yeah. Then
And
Act
it's-
3, the
And this warlord is on the same journey effectively to get to this same place.
yeah.
Because he wants to be at this meeting and is feeling pissed off that he's snubbed from it.
Yeah, exactly. And then in Act 3, Warlord gets there. They have a big fight, kills the woman.
So yeah, so warlord gets there.
Yep. Kills the female.
Maybe the woman could be like another gang leader.
I don't think she needs to be. In the first one, she's like the.
I know, but just to kind of like give it some like. So once again, her getting killed rather than her just being killed.
The
It's
only
like-
issue with that is that we are up until this point that these guys are all going to get together and be murderous. It's
Oh,
only
yeah,
revealed
yeah.
when because already it's kind of proven by the fact that one of the warlords is this.
Because that's what could happen is that they get to this site, this cool kind of like gang meeting thing. The warlord in like the battles and stuff to get in there or whatever kills.
Love interest.
Sorry guys, kills love interest.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this main meeting thing, like Snake kind of like in this weird fight sort of thing or whatever, Snake kills the person there, and it's just like, and it's like his son's kind of like coming with and all this sort of stuff, and they're having like good old fashioned fights. Maybe some sort of like echo back to the wrestling fight or something like that, some sort of cool place. Anyway, it's in DC, so it could be like around the Lincoln Memorial
Yeah,
or something like that, or the big
Washington Monument.
yeah. So in that sort of part of the world, I think around Lincoln would be quite cool for the actual meeting.
Yeah.
And like in the Lincoln thing, that's where this guy is, and like Snake kills him for killing.
In the reflection pool opposite Lincoln, obviously.
How deep is that water? Is it shallow as shit?
It's just gone. There's no water, so it's just a space, and they have the fight in where the water would have been. They fight, and he kills the warlord in hand-to-hand combat.
And now he's like, now all I've got to do is go.
Laser target.
But when he gets,
but then the warlords thank him for what he's done,
and they've got this dude's team.
yeah, and they're absolutely fine. And White's like,
And they're like, we actually, this is fucked up. Like
Yeah.
we got this all arse about tit.
and then Snake's then just like they're then like designate the building like we and all this, and he's like, no way. And they're like, you know what, it doesn't matter, we'll just send more firepower and we'll just take out the whole city block, we know they're with you. And then like hangs up, and then it ends with them shelling themselves and him being like,
Because
happy
there's
4th
a
of
watch swap or
yeah,
something.
watch swap, happy 4th of July.
Because rather than like his watch from New York, he kind of clicks it and it flips up. I'm sure that's the
yeah.
Or is it not? I can't remember. But I know it flips up to kind of press the button to kind of get him out of there.
Yeah.
So, that's time, my dear friend.
We got
Dismiss
this.
that. So yeah, like it's actually that's when we see he swapped over to his old watch.
Yes.
From
and then they shell themselves, and he's there with his son.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, and you've just got, and you can have in the background like, we gather together as one nation.
He should, when as you say, they're all panicking, and he just sparks a fag up.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the
Sat on-
warlords carry on with their meeting, and you hear that.
He sat on Lincoln's lap.
Yeah. While they're having the meeting. Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, is Lincoln sat that way? He is, isn't he?
He is like that. You could be on the lap. Yeah.
All right.
Now, one last thing I want to add. Does in the process of this, the son lose an eye?
Oh.
Might be cheesy, but I kind of like it. Like, fighting the warlord, it's the son that, like loses an eye in the fight around here, the beginning of Act 3. gets away, and then Snake's like
loses the other eye.
yeah, and then at the end of the film, he's been bandaged up, and then at the end of the film, he takes his bandage off and puts on an eye patch just like his dad. I know it's a little cheesy, but I think it fucking works.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Because you can imagine that, like, when he first meets him, he's dressed more like a soldier, and then throughout the journey, he's forced to adapt. So by the end of it, like, he's got long hair, but he's like fresh face and everything else. By the end of it, he's realised his government is shit, and he's lost an eye. He's got an eye patch, and you can just start to see that he is really becoming like his dad.
It's very cool.
100% taking advantage of Wyatt Russell.
But he's cool. I really like him.
Yeah, he's a good dude, 100%. And I just think it'd be an extra neat thing of having Kurt, like,
Like, once again, with the Fullness of Time, I'd like to make sure that we furnished Snake with, like, as iconic a gun as that weird silenced Mac 10 with a massive scope.
another one in.
Yeah, he's got, I can't remember what it is in there. It's a big Magnum thing or something. I can't remember.
No, he's got like a weird, massive, like, he's got the overpowered machine
gun. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so...
Okay, cool. Well, look, that's Escape from America, which is a great title. What we're going to do is we're going to cut, and via the power of editing,
appear right here.
In a different place. So, Escape from America. Should we really just get straight into it?
100%. We haven't normally titled them, that just came to me when we did it, but I like it a lot.
Do you want to start the music, or shall I start the music?
You start the music.
Play the music. Good. Okay.
So, we start off with the info dump, which essentially rounds up the fact that after the events of Escape from LA, the whole world is plunged without technology. In this time, Europe bands together to become one country with one president, and they realise that America is a threat, so they set up on these oil rigs a barrier to keep America from escaping into the rest of the world. At this time, America has descended into a state of lawlessness, but the threat looms of which they have to deal with. We then meet the new Snake.
New Snake?
Yes, who's badass, really cool, arrives in Atlantic City, and is taken out almost immediately.
Yeah.
At this point, it then goes back to what we find out to be the President of Europe, and then two other characters, probably likely the handler, and there's usually the female character that's really nasty, sadistic, and everything else. Basically saying that was our best guy. Like, how are we going to do this?
And the wise person being like, we all know there's only one person
that can do this, and they're like, but there's we can't get in to get him, and it's like, it turns out he wasn't there. He was over here. We sent 2 platoons, but we managed to catch him in the end. Snake arrives in cuffs. They then explain to him that there's a meeting of all the different warlords of all the states of America gathering together, and that they sense that once they're organised, they would have the forces and the manpower to overpower their defences and invade Europe.
Yeah.
You need to go in. He's like, go sod yourselves. They're like, well, we did try to break this up before, and we sent in a team. And he's like, what gullible young people did you get to do this? He's like, your son. So he goes mental, threatens everyone.
It's like, look, you can keep throwing things around as much as you like, but the fact of the matter is they've got your son, and they're going to execute him live on TV in 40 hours or something. Some time limit.
Yeah, and so reluctantly, Snake agrees.
So it's like, look, so what we're going to do is you're going to get over there, and you're going to rescue your son.
But in order for us to bring you back safely, you've got to designate the meeting spot.
And you do that, you point that thing at him, and we'll give you a boat out of there straight past all the gun emplacements, because you're never going to get past them otherwise.
Exactly. So Snake then arrives at the oil rig, saying that Atlantic City is the worst place to go. You need the colour of the city. So already showing that he's better than the first person. And he arrives by hovercraft to New York.
Yeah. Inside New York, we're a little lumpy around here, but basically we're going to start to get him breaking into New York first, and then starting to kind of like do some of the gang stuff. We can see what's happened to New York since. So obviously the Duke's gone, there's a power vacuum, someone else has taken over it.
Yeah.
Having fighting his way out of there. In amongst this, he finds his female love interest along the journey, because he's got to travel south to get to DC.
Yeah.
because like maybe he's like in this early combat, he's beginning to find out that like, oh, the meeting's going to be in DC or something. Like
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, because electronics have died and America's never gotten its shit together, she could be like a messenger, and her job is to go state to state. So she knows the best route into Washington.
He goes off, and we have like some more of the journey and some obviously more kind of like highway-based stuff. It'd be good to have like a car chase and some shooting out of it, that sort of thing.
While this is happening, we are introduced to a warlord that was excluded from the meeting, that's pissed, sees it as an opportunity that all his enemies are in one location, so he's on his way down to wipe everyone out. And we see him doing terrible things to people on the way.
Yeah, and he's been a thorn in Snake's side for a bit as well, because they're heading in the same direction and all this sort of stuff. Towards the end of Act 2 is when, in a combat thing, as I think we do a lot of this in cars. I think like a Mad Max style kind of adventure, like driving along would kind of work with this. He then finds his son, who, being the son of Snake, has managed to escape all on his own.
Yeah, they're telling him to push on with the mission. He's saying, I have my son, I'm not going any further. But his son refuses to go, saying, I'm saving the lives of my men. And he's like, you can't stop me. So Snake reluctantly goes with him. And they remind him, again, if you don't designate that target,
you're going to be taken out by these things when you try to.
Yeah. At this point, we sense something's wrong, because on the oil rig they can say, well, now that they found him, like, what do they do when they get there? And they're like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, kind of thing. We then get to Act 3. The warlord moves in for the kill, injures Snake's son, losing an eye. He's bandaged up. Snake gets away, but he kills the love interest. We then
As in the warlord kills a love interest.
Yeah, the warlord.
Snake doesn't lose his mind and kill her.
And then we get to the outskirts of Washington. In Washington, the meeting's taking place. The warlord arrives, but Snake stops him. There's the hand-to-hand throwdown in the reflection pool, which is now drained. Snake overpowers him, goes to turn on the warlords, and they applaud him for having killed the evil one.
Which is all taking place around the Lincoln
Memorial, which overlooks the reflecting pool and everything.
So he's just like, what the fuck, and then that's when we see
that they bring out the prisoners. They're well fed, they're fine. He goes, Snake's son, Worm, Worm Bliskin. He realizes that they're on the wrong side. Those guys explain that they were duped. They've worked out what's going on, so they directly tell the son. At this point, the oil rig is armed. They're ready to go. They're like, we've got our mortar strike ready. We just need you to laser it. And he's just like, hell no. Like, you're really trying to interrupt America. Like, we know what you're doing. They then explain that America's getting their shit together, and that's why they're taking him out. They're explaining it like they always do in the escape films.
You're a bad guy. You got to fess up.
You got a monologue. And Snake refuses, and they say, it doesn't matter, we've got your location, we'll just send more to wipe out the area. They're like, send everything this time and we'll get the whole location.
Snake's location. Yeah.
And as they do it, Snake lights up a cigarette. His son's like, aren't you threatening? And he's just like, you can always see it coming, or something like that. And we see that the oil rigs change direction and fire. And as they realise they're changing direction, like, what's going wrong, one of them sees the watch. Is like, starts beeping, and they realise that Snake swapped the watches out.
He's gone back to his old school, escape from
the mortars from all the other oil rigs hit the middle one, taking out the president, taking out the general, shutting. Maybe all the power runs through that one, so it tends on all the others.
Kills it all dead.
These guys then get together to write the second Constitution of America, while Snake lights up a cigar, or a cigarette, cigarette. It's got to be a cigarette. On the lap of Lincoln, whilst his son takes his bandages off and puts on an eye patch and takes the second cigarette from his dad. End credits.
Escape from America. I was going to say Escape from New York. Escape from America.
Escape from America.
I think it's fun. You know, like it's cool.
We could get more bogged down, and this needs a bit more fleshing out. It would also be nice as we're going back to New York to reflect some of the scenes that were in New York. Maybe those gangs are still there, or.
And soon, I think that, like, I think the motion and like we do it with car chasey stuff and lean on that, because America is built on the automobile. So like to have kind of like car stuff, and it's a bit Mad Maxy, I realise, but
no, because it's only a section of it, and I think it kind of works.
Big trucks and things and shooting out of it. Plus, Kurt Russell could be driving along, Uziing people. We could do that.
You also need we've given no consideration to what the evil warlord's like. It needs to be a what's his name? Isaac
Haynes?
Isaac Haynes, yes it is. Isaac Haynes, yes, was amazing as the Duke, and it's something that was lacking
brilliant.
in Escape from LA.
Yeah.
The other guy was not as strong.
The Duke
Yeah,
is the coolest. I love his car with the
100%.
chandeliers.
So
on it,
giving some thought as to who could play the warlord and what they would look like. Whole
just
different.
like I know I'm like going off on Escape from New York, but like just the way he's there with the Uzi resting on his boot, shooting at him and stuff. He was amazing.
He was very cool. But yeah, that's Escape from America. Once again, no pressure, no budget. But what we have said is it has to have Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe? No, Kurt Russell.
I was going to say Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Kurt Russell is who is needed, and it would be very cool to cast his son as his actual son, Wyatt Russell.
Ideally, John Carpenter direct it.
100%.
At least do the soundtrack.
Yeah, so John, if you're by chance watching, which would never happen, we would love to work on you on this one because this could definitely work very cool. And I feel like Kurt would do it as well.
Because he's the coolest person.
And the fact that he gets to do it with his son. Plus, if you wanted to rebuild the franchise, you then have Wyatt Russell ready to take on his dad's mantle. Not that I imagine there's a big market or demand for an escape film. But if there was...
maybe after this.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Mike, I think that was relatively successful. Well done.
I agree.
Not
So
bad.
what do you say we make it hard for ourselves?
Yeah.
In the next one.
I mean, well, why don't you say what the movie is?
Well, we planned to, or we discussed this before it was released. I know there is a trailer coming out, but...
Trailer out?
Trailer out, yes, sorry, that's right. We've not watched it yet, but let's do Indiana Jones. What would we do for Indiana Jones 5?
Lovely. Well, until then, let's have like another little piece of music playing, and I will see you next month.
I wish I had a cigarette to light up.
Yeah. Oh well.
There we go.
We'll do it in post. Bye!